It's Shark Week! Yes, it is Shark Week. I'm so glad you found my channel, Craft is Autonomous. I'm Amanda, and today, to celebrate Shark Week, I'm going to be teaching you a crochet pattern to make your own baby shark. Obviously, you can watch the video here for free on YouTube. You may have to deal with an ad, but basically it's for free for you, and you can watch through the video and follow along and make your own, or if you prefer a written pattern, I have it available for purchase on my Etsy store, so make sure you hop over there and check that out if you want a written pattern. For this project, I am going to be using mandala yarn. I have this skein here, this is unicorn, and I'm going to be unwinding it a little more. There's another gray section in there. As far as hook size goes, I'm using a US size D hook, and I'll have the equivalent millimeters pop up on the screen so you know exactly what size hook. Now, what I love about this pattern is it's a no-sew project. So let me explain what that means. That means we're not sewing pieces together. We're going to work it all as one piece. All of our joins, all of our closes are going to be crochet stitches versus getting out a tapestry needle and doing like a whip stitch and stitching things together. Having said that, we will end up with tail ends, unfortunately, so you will need a tapestry needle to weave in your tail ends. The last thing I would recommend is definitely use stitch counters. It will make this project go so much easier. I had to use some myself to keep track, so I would definitely recommend stitch counters. I'm using my sister's because I don't have mine handy. I'll put a link though in the description below to the Clover stitch counters that I really like. All right, that's all we need to know. Let's jump into crocheting our baby shark. All right, so I've got my materials here and I unwound this to get to the color I wanted. It looks a little blue on camera, but it's really this nice gray color. So we're going to work this project in a spiral to make the body. So I like to start by making a slip knot, chaining 3, and then slip stitching into my first chain. You could use the magic circle, but I find that it just doesn't hold quite as well for amigurumi. So I'm going to start by chaining 3, and then slip stitch in my first chain to make a nice little loop. Got a little loop there. If you have a hard time finding the center of 3, you could do 4 chains. Just make sure you work around this tail so you can cinch it up and make it nice and closed. So once I have my ring made, I'm going to insert my hook into the center of that ring I just created. And I'm going to keep this tail to the front, and I'm going to work a single crochet. So work that first single crochet. Once you have your single crochet, your very first one, put your stitch counter in it. We're gonna always mark the first stitch in our round. And for this first round, we're going to do a total of 7 single crochet into the loop. So I've already got 1, so I need to do 6 more. And if you're not going in at exactly the center of the chain loop, it's okay, just make sure you always work in the same spot and it'll turn out fine. So after the first round, you should have 7 stitches. For our next 2 rounds, we're going to work 7 single crochet evenly around. So I'm going to insert my hook here, right where the stitch counter is, start spiraling up to the next round. Work a single crochet. Because it's my first in the row, I'm going to move my stitch counter to that spot. Now the side that's facing us is going to be the outside of this project, or you could call it the right side. So when we work these next stitches, we want to make sure that we kind of roll everything to the back, because if not, our tension could pull it forward and then it would be really hard to inside out. So I worked my first single crochet for this round, and I need to work a total of 7. So just kind of roll it back so that way this is the outside. So row 3, again, we are working 7 single crochet evenly around. I'm gonna work my first one where the stitch counter is, and then I'll move my stitch counter to this first stitch. All right, so those are our first 3 rounds. And also, I promise I'm not really the slow of a crocheter. I am a little bit slow, but it's because I'm doing this on the camera and I'm watching myself through the camera lens. So it's a little, awkward doing this just the way I've got it set up. But I promise I'm not this slow, and this project doesn't take actually as long as it looks like I'm making it take. All right, so the pattern for this next round is going to be an increase, 2 single crochet, increase, and then 3 single crochet. So that's going to pop up on screen. But to work my increase, I'm going to just work 2 in the same spot, 2 single crochet. And I'm working fairly tight so that way the stuffing won't come out, so it looks good. So that's my first one. I'm going to move my stitch counter as normal. And work a second one in that same spot to work that increase. And then we're going to go a single crochet in the next spot. Single crochet in the next spot. And then single crochet increase, so work 2 single crochet in the next spot. 1 and 2. And I've got 3 spaces left, so I'm going to work a single crochet in each of those spots. So 1, 2, and 3. So this is really tiny, so it might be a little tricky at first, but once you get a little bigger, it gets a lot easier and you'll be able to make a lot faster progress. So now for round 5, we are going to work a single crochet, increase, 2 single crochet, then an increase, and then 4 single crochet. So I work my first single crochet right into that spot with the stitch counter. Again, very religiously move your stitch counter. It will save you so much heartache down the road with this project. And then in the next spot, we're going to work an increase, so that's 2 single crochet, 1, 2, and then a single crochet, just 1 in each of the next 2 spots. Here's a single crochet, and then a single crochet in the next spot. And now a single crochet increase, so 2 single crochet right here, 1 and 2. Also, you might hear my yarn squeaking a little bit. It's a little warm. My hands might be just a little sweaty. Okay, it's a little TMI, but you know, it happens to all of us when we crochet. All right, and then to finish this off, we're gonna work 1 single crochet in each of the 4 remaining stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So a good tip to make sure you're working each round correctly is once you complete a row, you will end up right before this first stitch. So see how I worked in the stitch right before this first one? That's how I know that I'm working this correctly, and that's true of all our rounds. All right, round 6. We're going to single crochet, increase, 4 single crochet, increase, and then 4 more single crochet. So here's our first single crochet, moving our counter, working an increase in our next spot. So 1 and 2. And then 4 single crochet, 1 in each of the next 4 spots. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then an increase on our next spot. 1, 2. And then we're going to work a single crochet in each of the last 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And honestly, I don't count out loud when I'm not doing a tutorial, but I do count like in my head, and if you need to count out loud, it can be a great way to make sure you stay on track. All right, round 7, we're going to do a single crochet, and then an increase, and then 5 single crochet, an increase, and 5 single crochet. So work our first single crochet right there, and move our marker, work an increase in the next spot. So 1 single crochet, and a second single crochet, and then work 1 single crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. and then an increase. So 1 and 2, and then 5 single crochet, 1 in each of the next stitches. 1. Also, I keep splitting my yarn because it is so tiny. So if you can avoid splitting your yarn, obviously your project will turn out a little better. Now this is our last round with increases. So for this 8th round, we are going to work a single crochet, increase, 7 single crochet, increase, and then 5 single crochet. Start with just a single crochet in our first spot, and move our counter. And then an increase in our next spot. So we will work 2 single crochet right here. And then 7 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Increase in our next spot. 1 and 2. And then 5 more single crochet to finish off this round. Now here's a great place to pause and make sure you haven't made any mistakes. So the first way to check is to make sure that we ended up in the last stitch right before our marker, which yes we did. And another way is to count to make sure that you have 17 stitches. If you count starting with the stitch counter and count this very last stitch we just did, you should have 17 stitches, 17 single crochet. And that will tell you that you are doing this correctly. So for our next 3 rounds, which I'm going to just start on the camera, but I'm not going to show the whole thing, we're just going to crochet 17 single crochet evenly around. So I'm going to make sure I move my marker. I'm just going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch from the previous round. So I have 17. I'm going to work 3 rows like this. And then I'll come back once I get this part done. Alright, so I worked rows 9, 10, and 11, which are all worked the same way. You just work 17 single crochet evenly around. So now it is on to row 12, and yes, we are more than halfway there. And for this row, we need to do 9 single crochet, 2 decreases, and then 4 more single crochet. Let's get our 9 single crochet out of the way. And now I need to do 2 decreases. To do the single crochet increase, I like to keep this really tight here, pull a lot of tension into it, because if not, this gets stretched out and it'll create a gap in our next row. So I like to keep this really tight when I'm doing this. This loop right here, keep that tight. And I'm going to insert my hook in the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, insert my hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up another loop. And then I've got these 3 loops on my hook, wanting to keep this one right here really tight. Then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops that are on my hook to work a single crochet decrease. So by keeping that loop tight there, it prevented a hole from forming right there. Alright, and I'm going to work another single crochet decrease in the next 2 stitches. So insert hook in the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, insert hook in the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. So those are my 2 double crochet. This is the top, and we're going to start kind of bringing it down in the front. And to finish this set off, I just need to work 4 single crochet in the 4 remaining stitches. So 1 in each 1, 2, 3, and 4. Row 13 is going to be really similar, but this time we're going to work 8 single crochet, 2 decreases, and then 3 single crochet. So let me work my 8 single crochet. Again, I'm still just working evenly around, moving my counter and spiraling on up the shark body. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. and then work 2 decreases. So work my first decrease across these next 2 stitches, and then another decrease across the next 2 stitches. And then finish off this round with 3 single crochet stitches.
So 1, 2, and 3.
Here's another good spot to make sure you are working correctly. Check and make sure that you ended right before the stitch counter space, and make sure you have 13 stitches, because for round 14 we're just going to work 13 single crochet around evenly, and then we're going to stuff it. So let me get these 13 single crochet worked around, and then I will show you how I'm stuffing mine. So I've worked round 14 where I worked 13 single crochet evenly around, and now it's time to make a decision about stuffing it. So this was my prototype where I was making up the pattern and testing it out. This one I actually didn't stuff at all. It actually looks kind of cool. You know, you can kind of squish it flat different ways. I think it's kind of neat actually, the way that it still maintains its shape even though it's not stuffed. So you can kind of fluff it up so it's a little more round. You could squish it in to give it more of that shark shape, whatever look you're going for. Or you can stuff it like I did with this one. This just gives it a little bit, you know, meatier of a shark, I guess. So this one, you know, maybe he's just been snacking. But either way is up to you. I think they both have their pros and cons. But if you do want to stuff yours, you can either use yarn scraps, some actual stuffing, or a handle from a grocery store bag. I found out that this is basically the perfect size to stuff one of these, so you can get like really accurate stuffing. And the way I like to do this is I just fold it in half, and I'm just gonna start pushing this bottom piece in all the way to the bottom. I like to stretch this out really big so I can take my hook out, and then I can use the hook to push it in there. It's gonna be a little bit squished in there at first, but because we're gonna do a few more rows, some of this stuff that gets really squished in there will be able to fluff towards the front, and it won't be quite so stuffed as it might seem at first. So I've got the whole grocery store bag handle stuffed in there. Like I said, it's pretty full, pretty chunky, but once we finish with the rest of the body, we'll be able to kind of squish it forward a little more and shape it, and it won't be quite so plump and chunky, I guess. Whether you stuff it or not, rounds 15 through 18 are worked the exact same way. So let's size this loop back down. And for row 15, we're going to work a decrease, 4 single crochet, another decrease, and then 5 single crochet. So I'm going to work my decrease in the spot here with the counter, and the next spot. You may need to take it out. Just be really careful and make sure that you put your counter back in after the decrease. So work our decrease. Ooh, these aren't so squeaky right now. And I'm going to put my stitch counter into this decrease we just made, because that's our first stitch from the round. Sorry, I keep pausing because I have it typed up on my phone and I'm using emojis to track where I'm at in this, so you know, that's cool. So now 4 single crochet.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
And then a decrease, because basically what these decreases are going to do is, this is like the top of our shark, they're going to start bringing the mouth in. And then our next decrease in our next 2 stitches. And then 1 single crochet in each of the 5 remaining stitches.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
I'm pausing to dry the sweat off my hook and my hand so it doesn't keep squeaking. This is the problem with crocheting in the summer, am I right? Because y'all really want to know about how much I'm sweating. Okay, this should be a little bit better. And now we're going to do row 16. This is going to be worked with a decrease, 3 single crochet, a decrease, and then 4 single crochet. So again, with these decreases, it's a little hard to do with the counter still there, so I'm going to take it out, but I'm going to make sure I put it back in as soon as I do this decrease. Because there's nothing like getting right to the end of the project and then losing where you're at and having to start all the way over. We don't want that. So I work that decrease, put my stitch counter back in. We're going to work 3 single crochet, 1,
2, and 3.
And the next 2 stitches work a decrease. Loop up there, a loop right here. Yarn over and go through all 3. And then finish off in the last 4 stitches. Work a single crochet in each one.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
All right, row 17 is actually kind of like our last row because round 18 is really just joining it all together. So for round 17, we're going to decrease, work 2 single crochet, decrease, and then 3 single crochet. You may have kind of noticed a pattern emerging from rounds 15, 16, and 17. So each time I'm working 1 less stitch between the decreases. So that was my decrease. I'm gonna put this in just for consistency's sake. Going to work 2 single crochet, 1 in each of the next stitches. 1, and then 2. A decrease in the next 2 stitches. And then 1 single crochet in the remaining 3 stitches.
So 1, 2, and 3.
All right, so that's basically the shark body. What we need to do now is create the mouth. And this is actually really easy to do because we're just going to use some slip stitches to seal it closed because who wants to actually sew? So I'm going to keep an eye on this spot right here because I'm going to insert my hook there in a moment, but I'm going to take the stitch marker out just so we can see a little bit better where I need to go in and so it's not in the way. So to work these slip stitches across, I'm basically going to work 3 slip stitches across. I'm going to start by entering my hook into the next stitch, and then I'm going to insert it up through this last stitch I worked. So kind of got to look around the tail of the yarn here, but right through the top of that stitch, right there. And then I'm going to pull my yarn through everything to make my first slip stitch. Then I'm going to find the next stitch on the bottom and go through that. Find the next stitch to the left on the top, go through that as well, yarn over and pull it through all that stitching and the loop that is on my hook. That is my second slip stitch. Third and final slip stitch, go through the next stitch on the left here on this bottom side of the mouth, and then go through that left stitch from where we went last time on the top. You will have 1 extra stitch just kind of here on the side. That's totally fine. We don't need to slip stitch through that. But now that I'm through both of those, I'm going to yarn over and pull through everything to create my slip stitch. And once I have done this third and final slip stitch, I'm going to yarn over and pull through, make a nice big loop, cut the loop, pull my yarn through, and cinch up this end. All right, so this is the shark body, and this is kind of, the back of it. This is the mouth. As I mentioned before, you can kind of squish the stuffing towards the front so that way the front's not so flat while this part's really chunky. So just kind of squish it around in there, shift it around, shuffle it around. But this, my friends, is the basic shark body. What's really going to give it the shark look is adding the caudal fin, dorsal fin, and the 2 lateral fins. So caudal fin is basically just the tail fin. So to add the caudal fin on the back, I want this running that way, and I'm going to pinch this up and down. So the direction this runs is perpendicular to the direction the mouth runs. So as you can see here, this goes up and down, this goes left and right. So that's how we want to pinch this. We're just going to kind of pinch it in half, and we're going to look at this back tail end here. So to make the caudal fin, which is the tail fin, we're going to work 3 rows. For our first row, we're going to work right to left like we normally do. So there's the mouth, the top is to the left here, and I'm going to start on this right side, which is really the bottom. And I'm going to work what I like to call a floating double crochet. That just means I have a slip knot on my hook and I yarn over. And I keep both of those on here, and then I'm just going to insert and pull up a loop. So where we insert, this is a little bit tricky, but we're basically going to go to the right side here and go just under that bottom stitch. You don't have to go in exactly where I'm entering. That's the nice thing about this, there's a little bit of flexibility. I'm just trying to find a spot to the right that I can enter. And then I'm going to complete my floating double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over, pull the loop through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's my first double crochet, and that's how I joined it. And then at the same exact spot, I'm going to work a second double crochet. Just kind of have to punch through the fish there. Really, I guess sharks aren't really fish. I'm trying to think of what they would be. I don't know if they're mammals or not. I don't know. Through the side of the aquatic creature's body. Next, I'm going to work 2 single crochet in the middle. So I'm gonna kind of work, or just push through, like in between the next 2 stitches. On the front, gonna push in, and then on the back, I kind of again wanna come out between the last 2 stitches on the right. Roughly like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. I absolutely promise that it's going to turn out okay, even if you don't enter in the exact same spots. The big idea is we just want to work a single crochet around this tail piece here. And then go over a little to the left between, you know, the next stitches there. I'm going to punch through from front to back. And work another single crochet stitch. And last of all, for this first round, I'm going to work 2 double crochet kind of on the side. So just like we did at the start, I'm going to kind of go under the stitching right there on the side and work 2 double crochet in that same spot. So 1 double crochet and 2 double crochet. Again, if you don't go in at the exact same spots, I promise I won't ruin it. I'm just trying to show you where I go in so you can kind of get a feel for it, but the trick is to just kind of work evenly across and work around this back piece here. So that is our first row of our caudal tail. Then we're going to work our next row by chaining 3, 2, 3, turn our work over. We're gonna double crochet right in that first spot there, right there. In our next stitch, we're going to work a half double crochet. And then a slip stitch in our next 2 spaces. So 1 and 2. And then we're going to kind of mirror it back out the other way where we work a half double crochet in our next spot. And then in our very last stitch, work 2 double crochet. So 1 and 2. So for our third and final row, we are going to again start by chaining 3, 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to turn our work and single crochet in the very first chain we just made. So kind of like right here. Work on the back of the chain, the side of the chain, wherever you want to work. Just work a single crochet in the side of that chain. Then in our next 8 stitches, we're just going to slip stitch along. So 1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And I think I missed a stitch in there, so I'm just going to do 7, but you should do 8. Basically work across until all that's left is the chain 3. And then in the chain 3, at the very top of it, we're going to work a single crochet in the top of the chain 3 in the beginning. So single crochet right in there. And then in the same spot, work a double crochet. And that finishes the caudal fin, so I'm going to fasten off by yarning over, pulling up a big loop, cutting my loop, and cinching it up. So hopefully now it's starting to look a little bit more like a shark. Next, we are going to work the dorsal fin, which is worked on the top. The best way to do this is we're going to kind of pinch along, so that way we pinch along the middle here of the mouth, right in the middle. Keep pitching back in a line that lines up with this top of the caudal fin. So just kind of pinch like this, so that way we have a rough idea of where the middle is. This doesn't have to be perfect, I promise it'll all work out okay. What we want to do now is we want to count back 10 rows. So we'll call this the first row right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm gonna slide my stitch counter in right between this 10th and 11th row. So we can mark this. Slide it right through the top. Okay, that's where we're going to work the first stitches of our dorsal fin. So again, I'm working between the 10th and 11th row back from the mouth. And to find how far over, I just kind of pinched along the back what looks even. So in this spot we just marked, we are going to work a treble stitch. So again, I'm gonna work a floating treble stitch where basically I start with the slip stitch on my hook. I'm going to yarn over twice for my treble, insert my hook to the spot that I marked with my stitch counter. So I'm kind of just going underneath a stitch, and I'm making sure I'm working between the 10th and 11th rows. Now once I'm through there, I'm going to catch the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. That's how I just work my floating treble. Now on the side of this treble stitch, I'm going to work a single crochet. I like to look kind of on the back side of the treble and insert my hook right about here. So kind of midway down the treble, just find a spot where you can insert your hook and work a single crochet right into that spot. And that's going to let our fin kind of curve backwards, if you will. Once we've worked our treble and single crochet, we're going to work a double crochet in the same exact spot. And then we're going to just keep working along the same kind of line here, this pinched fold in half, going in between the different rows. So we're next going to work a half double crochet between rows 9 and 10. Just going to insert in the top there to work my half double crochet. Then I'm going to work a single crochet between rows 8 and 9. So come through right here and work a single crochet. And last of all, between rows 7 and 8, I'm going to work a slip stitch to finish this part off. Once I've worked the slip stitch, I'm going to yarn over, pull up a nice big loop, cut it, pull it out, and fasten it off. So now we've got our dorsal fin. Last fins we need to add are going to be the right and left lateral fins. We're not going completely 100% shark anatomy here. There's some other fins that I'm not going to say so I don't get, this video censored on YouTube, whatever. But there's some other fins that you can include if you really want to. We're just going to stick with the caudal, dorsal, and the lateral fins. So the lateral fin is going to be worked very similarly to the dorsal fin in that we're going to kind of pinch the side and work stitches in between the rows. So to figure out where exactly we want to work, we're going to first figure out how far back to come. How far back we want to come is we want to work between rows 9 and 10. So this is row 10 right here, 10 and 11. You can tell because we worked right there between rows 10 and 11. So we're going to work our first stitch in this row. Now, where exactly in this row? What I like to do is I like to count down 6 single crochet away from the dorsal fin. So looking right in here, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that means we're going to work right there. So I'll put my stitch counter in there to mark it for now so I know exactly where I'm going to work. But again, to find this, I'm kind of pinching the side. I'm working back in between rows 8 and 9, and about 6 single crochet down the side away from the dorsal fin. To work the actual stitches for the lateral fin, I'm going to work 2 double crochet in this very first spot where I marked. So again, my first one's going to be what I call a floating double crochet. Start with a slip knot, yarn over, insert my hook into the spot where I'm going to be working, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And we'll get this counter out of the way. Now I'm going to work a second double crochet in the same spot. Then I'm going to move to work in between the rows that are a little closer to the head. So I'm going to yarn over and insert here and work a half double crochet. Go up between the next two rows, work a single crochet. And last of all, between the next two rows, work a slip stitch. And then fasten off. Now let's repeat this process for our left fin. So when we worked on the right fin, the dorsal fin was up. This time the dorsal fin is going to be down. The nice thing is it's worked the exact same way, and I'm going to count back the same way that I did for the right lateral fin. So to find my spot to work, I'm going to work in between rows 9 and 10. So this is row 10, this is row 11. So that's the spot between row 10 and 11. I'm going to work in the spot between rows 9 and 10. And I'm going to come down 6 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's right about here, if I counted correctly. And again, as I mentioned, if you don't count correctly, if you're a little bit further up, a little further back, a little farther forward, it's not going to ruin the project. It's just kind of, I'm just trying to give you a guide of where I go in so you can get the best possible results. So I'm going to put my stitch counter into there. Really, you just want to make sure that your lateral fins are even. And if we look from the bottom, they are going to be nice and even. So we're going to work the exact same pattern where I'm going to start with a floating double crochet in the spot that we marked. And then we will get out our stitch counter in the same spot, work another double crochet. In between the next two rows, work a half double crochet. In between the next two rows, work a single crochet. And in between the next two rows, work a slip stitch. And then, my dears, we can fasten off. And now your shark is all assembled, woohoo! Of course, there's those pesky tails that we have to weave in, so I'm gonna get out my tapestry needle and weave them in, and then I will show you the finished look. And here is our finished baby shark. Aww. Another thing I'll mention is when you weave the tails in, sometimes it'll kind of pull your fins in a little bit, so you can kind of fluff the fins and pinch the shark and kind of shape the stuffing to get the look you're going for. But I think it's super cute and so much fun. And now I have 3 baby sharks. I have no idea what I will do with these. I might put them in with my No Fuss fish in its jar, although I feel like that's kind of mean because it's like, you know, basically my little goldfish would be, you know, shark bait, I guess, if you will. But I might put them in there. And actually, speaking of that pattern, if you enjoyed this video, that is a video you will probably enjoy as well. You can click the card there to make a no fuss, no sew crochet fish. That's a very similar construction as the shark in this video. But now, since it is Shark Week and you already can't get the baby shark song out of your head, you might as well go ahead and crochet a baby shark. Okay, I'm really scared YouTube's gonna like flag this for copyright stuff, so I'm not gonna sing the song, but you know, we're all basically singing it in our heads right now. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and the bell notification down below. And as always, happy crafting. These sharks need some names. So, I almost wonder, like, should I name them after Shark Tank characters? Like, this could be, you know, Lori Grenier. I could have, I don't know, maybe this guy could be Mr. Wonderful, or maybe he's more of a Mark Cuban kind of shark. This one, I feel like it could be Barbara, you know, because it's like the lighter colored, and like, you know, she has lighter colored hair. Or I almost feel like maybe it could be Robert. I don't know. So maybe I should name these after the host on Shark Tank, or maybe I should just go with totally different names. If you have a name idea, drop those in the comments below. I always love hearing from my crafters.